Good evening, guys. I really don't know how to get my mind together for this topic because I'm definitely going through something right now. But just know that I'm okay. Everybody's fine. It's just getting my mind just going with the flow of things have been a little tough. But, anyways, I thought that today would be a nice day to get a stream. So, as you may have noticed, the title on this stream is Your Truth, in quotes. This is something that for years I have heard and observed on multiple podcasts. And it's 100% of the time, the memories that I personally have with that quote all come from women. And they're usually discussing something that happened to them. Let it be a situation with a partner, let it be a situation at work, just situational kind of talk. They express themselves with, I gotta tell you my truth. And then some people present in said podcast or social setting will be like, yeah, tell us your truth. And I thought that I finally have spent enough time thinking about it to express my opinion on that because I feel like nobody has really mentioned that before around here. So I'll go ahead and get it started. So when someone says that they're going to say their truth, I don't like that. I don't like hearing that. I like for somebody to express that they are going to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. So when I hear someone being asked, would you please tell me your truth? That bothers me. I would rather hear you say, I would like to hear your side of the story. I would like to hear the account from your perspective. Because if you say it that way, you know that this individual may be subjective. Their feelings, opinions, emotions, experiences may get in the way of the truth. But at least you are making it abundantly clear that there is potential for deception, whether intended or not. But to invite someone to say their truth and for the person to admit that this is their truth, I naturally want to think that this is a questionable truth. And that truth should be certain, unquestionable, factual, pure. But when you say your truth or their truth, it's like whatever you want to be true can be the truth that we're going to hear or take from you. And I find that unacceptable. Does that make sense so far, you guys? Do you understand where my dislike and even concern for such a phrase comes from? Because I think that's important. Imagine if I sat here and I told you guys, let me tell you my truth about my daddy issues. Like, no, I'm going to tell you shit exactly how it is. As I have said it all the time during the course of all my years discussing my personal topics. And that's why I like to keep a journal because in my journal, if it's something that's embarrassing to say or something that I'm not prepared to say to someone's face yet, I use my journal as a rehearsing kind of tool. But I'm not going to tell my journal the events tweaked to make me look good, to make me sound better. See what I mean? It's okay. I had the situation. It was fucked up and this is how I felt about it. This is what ultimately happened. Leave it at that. So I think that online, when I see someone talking about what's their truth, I have trouble following along. And if you guys wish for me to cite an example, particularly the most recent inspo for this topic, it was, have you guys heard of that one lady who is supposed to be a TikTok psychic? And she was saying something about how she believes some university professor was messing with some students or something like that. Well, that's where it came from. I just so happened to click on it because I was kind of incredulous about that title. I'm like, a psychic? What? So I decided to click on it, and it appears that in the most recent installment on that TikToker's story with the professor suing her, she was saying something about how she's gonna tell her truth on some podcast. And then the ladies in that podcast kept saying that too. Your truth is important. Your truth this, your truth that. And I'm like, no, the truth is you're screwed because you picked on someone making a bunch of TikToks about them and you wanted to do this without any repercussions. But now your truth is supposed to be the one to set you free somehow. See what I mean? That's why if you start off something by describing it as your truth, I'm not going to take you seriously. You can be perfectly innocent, but just say the truth and what is it? Label it as the truth, not your truth. See what I mean? So, anyways, I thought that I would share that is a recent example that doesn't have anything to do with me, in which I heard that being said. Whoa, dope, caught alive. Love your videos, man. Usually throw one on right after work. Hello, Zenkunen, Zenkunen. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to go about your username, but I'm not sure I recognize you immediately as a regular from my comment section. Like when you leave a comment under my video and then I reply whenever I reply, like 2000 years AD, right? But yeah, thanks a lot for telling me that, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not having a very good time in my life right now, something personal, and I will share you guys what happened, but not immediately because I need to kind of get my mind together, and I'm still a little bit in denial. Too many things. I can't wait to share it with you guys, but I want to share it in a way that's responsible. And that's why to open the stream up, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I need to try to bring my mind together because something like this, it just exhausts me. And I just don't want to stop being myself because I ran into a challenge in my personal life. So yeah, usually throw one after work. And I'm so happy to read something like that because my personal intention with this video is, or me making videos, is to have that kind of effect on people. I know that my topics are super random and all over the place, and they tend to revolve 100% around me. And I do that because I sincerely don't know how to talk about other people, you know? So I want to share the thoughts that I have silently but out loud, because there are some other YouTubers that I can say they go over subjects, and to me it's like a healing process. It's kind of like having your breakfast in the morning, and as opposed to reading a newspaper, it's like, let me hear from someone who talks about things that I know are challenging for me, but they do so in a way that's rewarding. So to know that now I've been doing this since 2016 and I still have people hanging around, like, it just feels great. So thanks for the kind message there. And yes, I'm on my quest to throwing a stream up at least once a week. I'm gonna try to make that my goal. I wish I could schedule them, but for right now I cannot. But just know that I think I can do this once a week, but please don't hold me to that yet. But I'm gonna try. Hey beautiful, hey Holger. It's as if the truth is dependent upon emotion or individual interpretation. Exactly. That. It's like, no. Like, let's say you and I get like on a verbal fight or something. You get upset about something. Let's say that you get mad at me because I took too long watching TV. I don't know, something random. And you wanted to catch a show that we agreed that you would watch. Well, my truth is that I was using the TV first and you want to use that show, you want to use it to watch your show when you clearly saw me using the TV. No, the truth is we agreed that whenever your show came on, I would hand over the TV. You made plans, and I assured you that your plans could take place. But my truth is, I want the TV, and I felt like having the TV, despite us agreeing that you were going to have the TV when the time came. So, no, you're the monster. Always the man. Whatever. Getting in stupid fights like that. And that's what I'm saying. To me, when someone talks about their truth, it just sounds like noise. It's like petty noise. Like, I'm sorry that in some cases, for example, and I'm going to try to go over this as carefully as I can, there are times in which girls be talking about dates that they went on ages ago. And for some reason, you never talk about anything that happened back in those ages ago. However, all of a sudden in the future, something happens, and then you decide to bring up the bullshit that happened between you and that person ages ago, and you want to tell your truth, and for some reason we're supposed to just take it. Like, oh, at the time I couldn't speak out because it's always hard to talk about things as a woman. Women are not respected. Women are not believed. Women this, women that. It is difficult to talk about something embarrassing. Like, no. Grow a spine, develop guts, whatever it takes, and address things immediately. Anything like that is time sensitive. But sometimes I look at it as you don't want to take accountability, you regret not taking action, and then now you're trying to, in the present, get sympathy. And I don't think that makes you strong. I think that makes you irresponsible. And like I've said before, I think that I like to say it like that because if it were me, I just think about resolving shit quick, address the matter quickly, and anything that's pertinent included as well, and not waste any time. But there's people who just waste too much time to get something out, and then by the time that you express it, it's just too late. It's like maintenance for your apartment. You gotta tell the maintenance team that you have a drain that's draining slow. Don't wait for the build up to get as bad as it can get to where it stops draining entirely, because then that is a bigger problem. See what I mean? That is an example of something that's time sensitive. So with human interactions, I think it's the same. Like, hey, I need to take action on this as quick as possible because memories fade, evidence fade, people may disappear and no longer be amongst us to serve as witnesses and share their story, and all those things. So I don't know, for me, I just don't like to bullshit. I like to get down to the bottom of things as quickly as possible. And maybe that's just something that needs to be taught. I didn't think you had to be taught that. I just know that, hey, something happens, you need to speak. But sometimes when I hear those types of stories, I'm skeptical. And I feel bad because I know if it were me and I'm sharing an experience, I'm going to tell it how it is. But whether it's something that I'm guilty or not, I just want for it to be respected because I'm telling it the way that it happened. See what I mean? Like, I don't really try to fight from the perspective of my truth is more powerful than your truth. Like, my side is more powerful than yours. Nothing like that. It's we had a disagreement or we had an event happen between us. How do we fix it? How do we get to the bottom of this? Something like that. Believe all women. Lol, close enough. Nope, never commented. Usually just lurked and kept it moving. It's interesting that you express yourself as a silent watcher because the, I guess, eventual story that I'm going to share with you guys of something that happened, I was going to say whether you're someone who's actively out here, expressing yourself like Holger, he's pretty much religiously commenting on every single one of my videos. And whether you're the silent watcher or you're the occasional commenter, whatever it is, like I just want to put this out there. And I'm telling you, I want to go ahead and get started and share it so badly, but I also feel like a situation like this, given that it's something that's in progress, I should wait and not say anything until like the matter is pretty much concluded, that type of thing. It's nothing super, 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 super bad, but it is definitely a life changing event. And whenever I get around to it, you'll know what it is because the title on the video is going to be something like, what did I think earlier? Uh, an indirect life changing event, something like that. And trust me, it'll make sense whenever I get around to it, but I'm guesstimating that it'll be within 2 weeks or so that I'll put myself out here talking about that, because it's something that I reference a lot, and it's something that definitely upsets me, and then it hit home, and it's like but at the same time it's one of those things that it just happens, it just happens. So I just can't wait to let it out, because I feel like this definitely went into my journal in pieces already, because it's a slightly big story, but it's like it's burning at me so much. I need to talk, I need to let it out. I don't know what to do when I keep this to myself. But fortunately, everyone I needed to tell has been informed, and I'm pretty calm. But yesterday I was a mess. Like, did I upload something yesterday? I don't think I did, because I think that what I was meant to put out yesterday, I had to push for today, and that's why you guys just got like a half-hour long video. And then hours ago, I was wearing the same stuff. I uploaded like a 3-minute one, because after I recorded those is when the stuff happened. Totally not on my bingo card, not on my plans. And then I thought, well, I forgot about the rest of the world. Like, I forgot about other endeavors I have on the side. I forgot about the channel. I forgot about everything. And last night I went to bed at around midnight. I emailed a friend, and after that I kind of died. I remember I was snacking on some popcorn. I was watching some kind of podcast. It's probably the one about the Institute of Anatomy, just learning about body functions and stuff. Those for some reason relaxed me, and I relaxed myself so much that I fell asleep, and my phone was still unlocked, playing like videos that were up next. And I said to myself, this is not me. I went from not sleeping to crashing super hard, but waking up at around 6 a.m., which I usually have my alarm set for 6:30ish instead. But at least I can say that the past 2, 3 nights, I have gotten better sleep. And I'm just relieved, because I get worried. I get worried about the fact that I'm not sleeping. And me worrying about how I haven't slept is worse than the actual effect of me not having slept. Like, I'm not necessarily tired from not sleeping, but I worry about the fact that I didn't sleep, and then that's what makes me, feel all kinds of messed up. So, so yep. But I promise you guys, I'm not gonna be defeated. I ain't going nowhere. But yeah, it's just I gotta look at this for what it is. It's a challenge, as an adult. Things happen, and you just gotta like go through it. Just go through it. But I'm not gonna lie, I've never been very confident in my capabilities when it comes to some matters. So now I'm looking at this as, okay, no matter how bad it gets, what can I learn from this? And yeah, it's I'm glad that I look at it that way, because in the past I used to automatically just take kind of like a victim kind of mentality and just focus on how this is bad for me, this is affecting me, this is falling on me, blah blah blah, because unaddressed issues, it's not, my confidence in that regard is not something that's ever been reinforced. And now as an adult, I had to become aware that I have that problem, and B, I had to accept the help, and C, I had to learn to identify when the help is being supplied. And if you have been thinking in a specific way for a long period of time, that becomes the reality that you're used to when it comes to your thought process. And then changing that, it's like unlearning something and learning something new. And I guess the older you get, the harder it is to just learn new shit. You know what I mean? So yeah, but not making any excuses. I just like to discuss where my behaviors, decisions, and responses come from, because I thrive in those discussions. And I'm just sad that discussions like these don't happen more often. So, in a sense, the channel inspired me to just talk it out. And if it is pertinent and adequate and appropriate, then in person, I can finally face it. It's kind of like rehearsing to a mirror, but as opposed to having a mirror, I get to play it back to myself. And by extension, I open myself to you guys, and you guys are going to be objective because you only know stuff from my perspective, which, like I've said before, I'll always share the story the way it goes and then tell you why I react the way that I react. And sometimes you guys be telling me that I may be wrong in some instances, or I may have overreacted about something. And then I'm like, well, I see your point. I see what you mean. But this is why I react the way that I do, you know, because if I see your point and then compare it to my point, it's like, oh, I have an opportunity for growth. Or in other instances, it's, hell no. More than ever, am I going to retain the way that I do things and the way that I think things. So it's fun. I find it fun. This is mental stimulus for me. You think fear could be shackling them? You know, yes. And I want to understand where the fear comes from. And as somebody who has always lacked confidence in herself with a lot of things, I want to understand what leads to that lack of confidence and how you break from it. My lack of confidence had always been that me expressing myself, especially making myself vulnerable and looking for ways to better myself, it was never a rewarding experience, especially from the people who are close to me in my life. And I know I have said this in a video before, but I'll try to review it and simplify it. My experience growing up when my family was around, my family is like a lineage of people who are teachers, military folks, police people, and the occasional musician here and there. What else do we have? Carpenters, just those kinds of professions. Naturally, my family, primarily my maternal side, my maternal side, they were just serious, stern people. Very, very rigid. And the newer generation, and by newer generation, I mean the folks who were born in the 70s and 80s in my family, I guess those were beginning to modernize the way that they thought. Whereas anybody older, like 60s kids, 50s kids, 40s and 30s, which my family tend to have long gaps between each other. Except for my grandparents. My grandparents had maybe like a 3-year gap between themselves, but when it came to their children, like my grandma was about maybe 16, 17 years old when she had my eldest uncle. And then after that, the gaps just began widening and widening. And then I thought, okay, what are the consequences of something like that? So my uncles, compared to my mom is like a new gen kid because she's from the 60s, and my eldest uncle is like an early 50s kid, if I remember right. And then my middle uncle is like mid to late 50s kind of kid. And although it doesn't sound like a big difference, at least in comparison to my mom, which on top of that, she was a girl, the differences were marked very severely. And hopefully it'll make sense after I explain it. So, with that said, my family was just extremely rigid in their ways, and mom, of course, was raised in like the olden ways of the girl stays at home, and my grandparents didn't want to let her to go to college. And when she finally went to college, they wanted her to, whilst having a degree, to come back home. And I'm like, why would you ask your kid who went through the effort of getting a degree to come back home to not do a damn thing with a damn degree? See what I mean? So my family has had to do a lot of things in secrecy, a lot of things behind people's backs. My cousins, those who would be closer to me as my contemporaries, they had to quote unquote escape from their parents to be able to pursue some things that they were interested in. And nobody has really experienced success. Success meaning you have the degree, you have the property, you have the vehicle, you have the spouse. It's been a mess. Like completely unmarried folks, or folks with children but they're not married. And none of my cousins have ever gotten married that I can think of. My siblings, only my brother, who's older than me but younger than my full brother, has gotten married, and he's only a half brother. So there's not really a lot of consistency. And this brother is actually a paternal side brother. So when it comes to my maternal side that I'm describing now, you can see that the pattern seems to be we are like a cursed lineage. Nothing has gone well between us. And my uncles, my mom had a marriage, ended in divorce, 2 kids. And then my uncle, who's like the middle uncle, older than mom, but younger than the eldest, of course, he had a marriage, but divorced, had a kid, then had another kid, then had another kid, and hella later in life, later in his years, he had yet another kid. But I don't know if he actually ended up marrying this lady. I don't think so. And that kid, the youngest kid, which is younger than all of me, all of my side, and my cousins and my brothers and all that, like, you know, this is an infant. I've never met her. I'm not even sure what her name is. So there's that. It's like walls between us. Just nothing goes well on our side, on our lineage. And then my eldest uncle, he got married. He's still married, but he never had kids, but his wife had kids. And I'm not sure if he wanted kids himself. The way my mom told me the story, it sounded like he wanted them, but the lady couldn't have them. So there's my uncle potentially living an unfulfilled kind of life. So then with my mom, it's like, all right, she had a fulfilling career, but then she had to interrupt it, to then go back to it, to interrupt it again, to go back to it, to interrupt it again, maybe one more time, and then hold on to it for about 12 more years. But now she had to interrupt it, and this time is for good. So, okay, I want to say that mom definitely had a career more successful than not when she actually did her thing, which was teaching. But like I said, she had interruptions. And by interruptions, I mean she had to take jobs that had nothing to do with teaching. And after that, it was just a strange thing for me to be thinking about, okay, I'm going to go to college and this is what I'm going to do. But then I thought, I have major commitment problems. When I was a kid, my mom signed me up to the Girl Scouts, and I thought that all the Girl Scouts was a club to do activities at school. And I'm pretty sure I have shared this before, but when I started seeing that they had excursions, like you actually had to go away from home during weekends, I started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, What? Is mom coming? I had major separation anxiety, and I just could never make it out on a trip alone. I only began to feel confident about that type of thing during middle school, in eighth grade, when we went to the beach for one of my science classes. And then after that, I said, oh, okay, going on excursions is not so bad. But I think it helped that I was a little older. And at the time, I had my middle school friends who I was pretty tight with. So I felt like I had a squad backing me up. But I mean, I freaked out when I heard that the Girl Scouts needed to go on trips and stuff, and Ma wasn't going to be there. We didn't necessarily have chaperones like that. Like, parents were not the chaperones. And I'm like, what? No! So I have exhibited separation anxiety habits or tendencies, and insecurity in being away from home and social settings and just that type of thing since forever. So, me knowing that, I said to myself, I'm going to be shipped out to college. College? Where is college going to be? And I'm going to be by myself. And I just automatically assumed that I was going to have to lead that life alone. And my biggest fear has always been that, okay, mom did her best when she raised my brother and I by herself. But that did have consequences. And those consequences are what I try to, despite being subjective because it's coming from my feelings and opinions, I'm trying to objectively exploring by sharing the story based off my memories, how I can reflect on that past and arrive at new conclusions. Also, what I recall my mom telling me about the reality of her situation back in those days, and then be like, okay, I understand that. I understand why she did this, why she didn't do that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we suffered and we reacted to it differently. My brother reacted to our childhood and it concluding way different than I did. And I don't think that neither of us got out of our childhood in a healthy way, fully healthy way. Only when we became adults did the behaviors start coming out. And then, unless you happen to have, in my opinion, a natural fascination for figuring out what's happening, where things are coming from, like I do, then I think that something major has to happen before that stuff gets uh, exposed. And with my brother, stuff has happened to him that he had to get questioned about. And he finally opened up about stuff that he has always felt or gone through that he never shared with anybody. And whereas for me, I guess it's also naturally easy for me as a woman who naturally is like more emotionally driven. I was shocked to hear my brother having issues with that type of thing because I'm like, bruh, I'm not even as chatty and social as you are, but I have my mind together with this subject. Like, I can tell you everything in just one shot because I have thought about it. But for him, getting the conversation started was like super impossible. Whereas for me, all you gotta do is ask me and just be curious about something, inquire in any way, and I'll be ready to tell you about whatever it is. I'll either tell you, oh, I don't have a lot of experience, but, or I'll be like, oh, funny you say that because da 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 da. But to discover that my brother, who I always deemed more intelligent than me, because boy, he just knows his shit. He knows everything that I was never good at, such as history things, um, and what other subject was he really good at? I guess the historical side of literature. Like that boy just retained that type of thing. I was never that. I was the more, I guess, science inclined person, but even in science, there were some aspects of it that he totally kicked my ass at. So in a sense, I'm like, okay, intellectually, I know what my gifts are. I know the stuff that he completely destroys me at. But this isn't a competition. It's okay, we both have good grades in our own way. And there's some stuff that, of course, naturally I just do slightly better at, in the same manner that he has his stuff that he has an advantage over me. But weirdly enough, I learned that some folks in the family seemed to think of me as kind of the weird one. And what I mean by that is, given that I was performing so well academically, despite the challenges being thrown at me, such as moving um, in the middle of school semesters and then coming back, I experienced interruptions for about 2 years. Um, I was able to just put myself together and keep excelling in school, whereas he would struggle a little bit. I'm like, where's this comparison coming from? We're both kids just trying to make it. See what I mean? So, to tie it with what we're supposed to be originally expressing about your truth, everything that I just described is definitely things that happened, and it can be corroborated that it happened. But what I can supply for you guys is my perception of it, how it made me feel, how it affected me, and how in the present I can tie it to those beginnings and say my reluctance to do something like challenge myself to go back to school and learn something useful so that I can go for a better job and stuff like that. I have zero motivation to do that. I think I would rather lose my apartment, move in my car, throw my shit in a storage before I consider pushing myself that hard. And what I mean by that is that I thought that I was already on my way to doing that. I had the motivation, the drive, and inspiration when I was 17 and 18 years old. But during that season, I had to work. I had to start working. So my drive to learn became fatigued by having to hold a job. And I just didn't see how it's worth it for me to now break myself down mentally, sustaining a job, and on top of that, just make my schooling work. And I'm the kind of person who I like to have a linear focus. If I'm going to have a job, I'm going to focus on the job. If I'm going to have an education that I'm working toward, I want to be able to focus on the education, not splitting myself. I don't have the necessity to do that, especially since I don't have any dependents. But now, in my present, when I see that it is expected of me to provide support to individuals that technically are not my dependents, I tend to have a little bit of a negatively reactionary kind of approach to it, in which I'm like, hold on. When the fuck is anybody going to start investing in me? Because like as a kid, I did nothing. And as a teen, I definitely had less than nothing. And even as an adult, I still haven't had fun. Like I hear even my mom, she can say in her youth she got to do things. Her brothers definitely did things. My full brother, he definitely has gotten to do some things. So, me, the path that I decided to choose, thank God I avoided student debt like the plague. It's like, okay, I'm working on building myself up by myself, no support. And here you are expecting me to contribute on things, but when have y'all ever asked me how you can contribute to my things? That's where my saltiness and resentment comes from. Like, I am a hell of a good fucking excellent giver. But when it comes to being a receiver, I get nothing. Nothing. And that's why the little bit that I have, I protect it with teeth, nails, claws, toes, and sword and shield. Everything that I can get my hands on. So I know that ultimately this is leading to a degree of my very emotional and mental decay. I feel it. I could have done so much more. I could be on my way to having so much better. especially if I were to cultivate my intellectual development. But I don't want to pay the cost. I don't want to have to juggle my schedule, to scramble, to, like, I'm fucking tired. That's what I am. Tired. And when I'm tired, I don't have motivation to do anything. And at least in the present, I have expressed that to individuals who finally made it a rewarding experience. And by rewarding, I mean they didn't necessarily just sympathize with me. They said, I understand where you're coming from and I see the challenge. And at least you're making it work. It's not ideal, but you're making it work. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And to that, all I had to say was just thank you. Because some people just treated this like it would be the end of all of humanity if Zam continues her life the way that it is. And that's the problem with having a very small circle. But it's also hard for me to open up to people when I'm not used to trusting people, because people have never given me a reason to trust them. And in the past, when I dared to do that, I got hurt very bad, So it's kind of like retraining a pet to trust you after they have been traumatized. Humans are no different. We just like to act like we're much different because we have a stupid ass thumb that allowed us to build cool shit, But if we didn't have all these things that spoil us, we're nothing. I mean, we have made ourselves too comfortable. So yeah, so sometimes when stuff like that happens, I just remind myself that, hey, it could be a whole lot worse. At least I don't have behavioral problems that are costing me big time. And every issue that comes up is a pretty resolvable one. But I just wish that sometimes I would hear words of encouragement, like, okay, you got through this, everything is fine. But with my family, given how rigid they are, the only way that you get any kind of positive remark is when you achieve something great. Like, oh, okay, congrats on the degree. Or maybe you can get the degree, but they won't say anything until you get the job. And I'm like, why does it have to be like that? Why can you not just be happy that I completed high school and that, I don't know, I'm fine, I'm well, I'm doing okay. My family cannot say the same when it comes to their health, for example. So for now, I feel like I'm more salubrious than not. But, the people who are in the sanative stage of their health stuff, it's like some of you guys are not even getting better. So do you see why sometimes I get scared of pushing myself? Because maybe you guys were pushed to your breaking point. So how about if instead you say, you know what, Zam, I definitely pushed myself too much when I was young and I regret it and this is why. But a lot of this older generation is saying you have to get fucked as bad as I did and suffer the way that I did. And I'm like, why? No, I'm sorry that the leaders of your time had zero regard for your health and well-being. But now my generation is saying, we don't want that. We would like to not be, I don't know, disabled and dying when we're 50. A lot of my family has kicked the bucket in their 50s and the occasional one in the 60s. And I'm surprised that my great grandfather was a few months shy of being a centenarian. That was miraculous. But see what I mean? Like, the generation in my family that I actually knew, most of them are gone. And the new gen, I haven't met them because we have been moving to different places. I don't know where my cousins are at. Sometimes they say that they're in one state. Next time I hear about them, they have moved to yet another state. And I'm like, why are y'all like dirt all over the place? So if you think about that critically, in my opinion, the reason my family moves around so much is because we don't know stability. And I think that stability is one of the things that would make a healthy human, a healthy person. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to do things that promote my stability. And I'm just sad that when I talk about these things, I'm not being supported with it. It's, oh, you want stability? Go full time and go to school and do this and that. And I'm like, it's just those things do not line up with my values. Like, can we have a real heart to heart conversation about who I am as a person, what I want, what I do, what I desire? You know, all you do is tell me to pick something. You're trying to pick for me what you think I should have to obtain a lifestyle that I have never said I have wanted. Does that make sense? Like, orient me on me as a simple person. This is what you do. Okay, make sure that you're really wise with your money, because cars need repair, health insurance is expensive, gym memberships are expensive, blah, blah, blah. It's doable, but it's going to be challenging. Why can't you not talk to me like that? But instead, you're like, no, 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 no. You gotta pursue the management role so that you have all this extra money. And I'm like, what the fuck is the point of the extra money if I'm not gonna have time nor energy to enjoy it or do anything with it? And then my schedule is not going to allow for me to have a life, because sometimes I'm gonna have to work days, other times nights. And I don't know about you guys, but there comes a point in which the body cannot do shit as well anymore. Like, for me to go many nights without sleep, it used to be a walk on the park. But I noticed that it changes my mood. I cannot deny that anymore. I'm not a teenager. So, that's what worries me. Like, when can I have a conversation with someone who is grown, old as fuck, who's like, you know what, Sam? Based on my experience, yes, I won't deny that I wish I would have taken care of myself better. Why didn't you take care of yourself better? Oh, it's as if working 12 hours is not an amazing thing, especially if you're by yourself. And heaven forbid if you're divorced with kids. Stop denying that is a problem. That's what I'm saying. Like, you were the child of the professional who had the, I guess, what do you call that? Prestigious career. What was the cost of that, though? You were not at home, and when you were at home, you were in a horrible mood because you were out there giving your best to your job. Like, for instance, let's take a policeman. That's what my father did. You have the time and the energy to address the problems of other motherfuckers in town. But when we needed you at home to change, I don't know, a fucking light bulb, you weren't there. And you would get mad at us for asking for your help. Why are you giving your best to people outside your home? You should be bringing the better fruits of your labor to your home. But instead, you gave it to the homes of other goddamn fucking people who should have had their own resources to address their problems. See what I mean? So if I sound resentful and mad, it's because I am. I am the result of neglect. Neglect sucks. It hurts. How do you heal an adult with these problems? You can say go to therapy, but again, not everyone is going to find that viable. I know I can't. I can't pay for that. And even if I wanted to, there are some things that I simply will never divulge to a professional, no matter how guaranteed my healing is. It's just not something I do. I don't divulge my business to anybody. And I think I have a right to that. But what would help me, and I tell you this from experience, is when I sit down with somebody who makes me talking about these things rewarding. What it means for this conversation to be rewarding is that you listen intently, respect me, and if you're not sure, you'll ask, is there something you want me to help with? Is there something I can do to help? Or are you just trying to vent? Or am I invited into providing my input? Anybody ever who talks to me, you're always open and invited to tell me anything, even if it's to criticize me. And anybody who knows me in person knows that I'm game when I say that. I'm serious. And I understand that you may come from a time in your life in which you experienced talking to someone and trying to offer advice, and it didn't go well for you, and that taught you to be more cautious. Well, I look at that as a bad relationship. Just because you had a bad relationship with one motherfucker in your past, you shouldn't condemn all of your future potential relationships to that. We were not, those of us in the future, we're not the ones to do that to you. So why are you judging me and measuring me with the same measuring tape that you used on that other person? I'm new. I didn't do anything to you. So don't exercise an insane level of caution around me and hold me up to an unfair standard when I didn't earn that. I shouldn't have earned your mistrust. You just met me. See what I mean? So when I start opening up about my personal matters, I have a very specific way of testing the waters. And the very first thing I look for is, how do you talk about yourself? But when you are discussing me, are you asking me questions? Because I find that some people will talk to me, but they'll talk to me about everything in life, but it's about them. And to give you an example, let's say that for some reason I hang out with one of you guys in person. Let's pretend that I'm a little bit of a celebrity, like, I don't know, some famous singer. And one of you guys is the lucky person to hang out with me for about an hour. Let's say that somehow we can just schedule that to happen. In that hour that we're together, as opposed to you talking to me to ask me questions because you were the person who wanted this and therefore it was granted for you to have this hangout with me, instead of dwelling on me, you decide to talk about you. You decide to talk about what you have going on, what you own, what you have. And maybe you're doing that in an effort to, for some reason, impress me, which I have never, as far as I know, ever given any indications that I'm interested in being impressed like that. You could be using that time to hear things from me about me that you just don't know, that you just don't figure about me, because, say, as a celebrity, I just don't have that kind of time. Let's say that I'm not a vlogger. Let's say that I don't have the channel and something else is what made me famous. Why would you not be curious about me? I think that the best way to bond with somebody is to make them feel special, make them be the stage. But a lot of people like to hang out with this person to kind of fill up the air, and then you'll be able to say, oh, I hung out with this famous person, but you just have the story to tell that you hung out with that person. And then say, if whoever you're telling you hung out with this person asks you something specific, like, oh, and let's say that we went to a restaurant, what did they order? You don't fucking remember. You could be asking them, hey, what do you prefer to, I don't know, have in a burger? And you're not paying attention. You don't realize what I ordered. You just remember that I had a burger, but you didn't notice what went in it. See what I mean? Be present. Be curious about the person you're actually hanging out with. But if you're going to hang out with this person you wanted to hang out with really bad, but you don't even make them be special, you don't ask about them, you didn't give me a chance to talk because you were the one doing all the talking, that shit sucks. And if that reminds you guys of anything, you guys know how I take forever to get back to the comment section. I do that on purpose because some of you guys will leave good ass replies, and I want to make sure that I put as much effort and time into giving you a complete thought. Whether it's important or not, whether it's something about food, whether, like, you're taking the time to talk to me. I have to, out of respect, take the time to talk to you as well. And if I don't have the time to do that, I'll just postpone it until I can. But that is how I am in real life. If I have to avoid you, it's because I don't have the time to make myself present in our exchange. And as someone who had been neglected so fucking much to where every time I had a story to tell, someone was not listening to me intently, or outright telling me I don't have time for that now, or I don't want to hear it, or that's stupid, that's not important. Talk to me about important things. Tell me about anything that may need attention. Something, something. I never got to talk about what I like, what is my favorite color, what is my favorite food, like, what is my favorite animal, anything stupid like that, those basic things. It was rare for me to talk about that. And then when people would try to guess things to do for me or get me because the calendar says you have to get me something, what does Zam actually like? Like, you fuckers know nothing about me. I hate that. Whereas I remember your birthday, what you drive, your license plate, your phone number. I still know people's phone numbers, but no clown out here has mine memorized. So, so that's what I mean. If I'm going to interact with you and make you a part of my life, I will keep up with your shit. And one of you guys, who I happen to chat with outside of here, I definitely remember more things than not, even if it's not exact. I know my favorite example is one of you guys has like 6, 7 names, and even though I don't remember them all, I'm pretty confident that I could remember at least 4 of them. And for me, that makes me super proud because things like names is something I have always sucked at. But because we have taken the time to actually bond, like, sure, I'll remember things about you. And if I don't remember your exact birthday, I'll be really close to it. Like, hey, I know that this week, the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, you have a birthday coming up. I'm not entirely sure when, but I'm remembering. And usually I text the person the day that it's happening. Like, wow. Um, that's what I mean, you guys. Just be present, because when you're not present, when you're just hanging out with someone because they're a body that you're seen with, that shit can be hurting them. And you have no idea. Especially if they're someone with a background like mine. You may look at me as someone being overly sensitive, but at least I feel like I have done a good bit of work, my homework when it comes to that. Like, oh, what are the ways that I'm legit, genuinely arrogant? What are the things that I need to get better with? What are the things that make me be really hard on myself? And what are the things that I need to just chill out with? Because I did have major attitude problems. And some of it is the kind that I couldn't take criticism very well. And now that I can, is something that I'm super proud of, because I never thought that I would, because I was such a outstanding student. I always thought I'm fucking perfect. I don't make any mistakes. And sometimes as an adult, I still act that way until something happens and then I get my ass humbled. But then the difference between me now and me from the past is that I can accept that I was wrong. Whereas before, I always tried to like justify or find an excuse for why I messed up. See what I mean? And that's just petty. That's just stupid. So anyways, you guys, that rambling, I just had to share it because I feel like the more I let it out, the better it makes me feel, because it was my greatest source of guilt and embarrassment. And now that I'm saying it, and I don't care how someone takes it now, it's like either you get it or you don't. I find that there has been the occasional person that has told me things the way it is. They have told me, look, Zam, I get it, you're hurt, but it doesn't mean that you can allow yourself to live your life defeated, live your life in utter failure. At least choose something to commit to and make it work. And that's why at least I have been able to hold on to my job. I have been able to hold on to my car, hold on to my apartment. And those are things that make me proud because, like I said before, I had commitment problems because my role models had commitment problems. But at least my mom, she didn't have responsibility problems nor commitment problems. The issue was that because she was solely responsible for us, she pretty much had to grind like a man, pretty much. Like just work, 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 and make it work for us and make it work for herself. That induces a lot of stress because I, as someone who has never been married and doesn't have any kids, I feel stress. So I don't even want to begin to compare myself to her because, in that regard, I know that what she went through is much tougher. But because I had her to give me that example, that is why I know that's not the life I want to have. So the first things to go is kids. I cannot have kids because I refuse to make someone else come first. Because I want to have my opportunity in which I come first. And as an adult, I haven't been able to make myself first. Is it selfish sounding? Yes. Do I have a reason for being this way? Yes. Am I salty? Yes. Like, do I regret it? No. So that's what I mean, you guys. That's why I try to share as many stories as I can of anything that kind of messes with me mentally. And sometimes I just look back and I'm like, oh, I could have handled that a whole lot different. And I think that that's the most responsible thing I can do. Just humiliate the crap out of myself and be like, no matter how good I was at something in the past, there's still room for growth. And I know people who don't embrace growth. All right, let me go back to the comments. You guys deserve attention. It's a man's world, baby. Hello, Zamrief. Hello, JP. But it wouldn't be nothing. Stress can really ruin your body. It's good you acknowledge that you have snap out of it. Oh my God, yes. And let me tell you something about stress. This should be its own video topic, but stress for me is something that my first experience with stress was more, let's see, how do I express this? When I was in school, health classes, stress became a topic. The way that I saw stress was more about stress is the stimulus, anything that provokes your senses to react. Sound is a stressor, smells are a stressor. Like when you smell something that stinks, you go like, oh, that's stressful. Loud sounds can be stressors. Like you ever hear a sudden loud noise and you like you jolt and kind of brace your gut like you're about to get punched. For me, my adrenal gland is something that I guess is just type O blood shit, ancient blood flowing through my veins that I just cannot relax my fucking body on command. My mom can do it. She can. If you guys ever watch Baki, that little anime, Baki literally learned to relax himself into liquid. I relax myself into concrete. I'm just tough, just tense all the time. And I learned about that type of stress, emotional stress, toward the end of my middle school days and the beginning of high school. I just so happened to have a teacher who was cool as a cucumber, and I said to myself, I want to learn to be like him. His demeanor never changed, no matter how bad the kids were behaving. And I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? How is it possible that this man can just do that? How do you relax yourself so well? So anyway, that was my inspiration. But I always felt bad that in school I could be cool as a cucumber, but I would go home. And as soon as I set foot on pretty much property ground, I was already like tensing up. And at home, if I heard the sound of something falling on the ground or anything like that, it would startle me. Like it really, 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 really would. I was just crapping myself all the time, pretty much. So with stress, I started seeing how it changes me physically. I see the changes in my skin. I feel the dryness in my body. It's like I dehydrate at a quicker rate. I find myself making mistakes, like cognitive mistakes. Let's say that, to give an example, let's say that what I'm cooking is supposed to have just a little dash of salt. Boom! I end up spilling like half of the container into my dish. Something like that. It's like my fine manipulation is affected. And I also start shaking, something that I was never known for. But sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm fucking shaking. What is going on? I have zero control over my body, my nervous system, things like that. And even my vision. Sometimes I'm like, my God, I can fixate my gaze on an object, but it's like instantly, it's like I gotta lock my eyes on something else and then come back to it. And this is what I hate about modern days, that they really try to overdiagnose people. Like, oh, you have ADD, or oh, this and that. And I'm like, no, I'm a stressed out motherfucker. I'm stressed. And I don't need drugs for this. Okay? Stress is what makes me feel this way. Because when I am not stressed, like when I take days off from work for a week and I don't tell anybody about it, I go back to being as cool as a cucumber. And that is something that I actually do. I take time off. I never tell anybody at work or anybody at home that I'm taking time off, because for some reason people love to make plans when I'm on my time off. And I'm like, what part of my time off is me time? Do you not understand? See what I mean? So I start defending that fiercely because, again, I feel like my time has never been respected. My mind has never been respected. So, as someone who was brought up in that kind of setting in which I was only used for my abilities, like back in the day, something like back in 2010, 11, 12, I used to be a grandmaster using computers. So now everyone around me just associated me as the fucking computer nerd, and you want to use me for my keyboarding skills, for my presentation skills, for my vocabulary, whatever the fuck. I'm only of service. But I'm like, what about, just creating a meaningful bond with me? Do you clowns care? Like, would you only care if you find me one day lying on the ground with flies over me? Is that what it'll take? So, this is why in the past I made that one video about how you never look for flaws on the straight A student. But the straight A student is probably the one that you should worry about, because that motherfucker is probably going to be the one who's going to grow up to need therapy. But the people who are flunking, like the D's and F'ers, those get attention. Remedial courses are offered for them. Tutoring is offered for them. But that is a trap to be a good student, to be excellent. Over-reliance on you becomes a thing. And that is something that's happening to me at work as well. I'm a fucking veteran. At this point, I'm oversaturated on my skill, super good at what I do. And then I observed that my responsibilities, despite me being in an entry-level position pretty much, I was feeling stressed. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was performing jobs that weren't really part of my original job description. And my job position hasn't changed. The fuck? Huh? What? Huh? So then that's when I said, oh, I'm going through that bullshit I went through when I was at home, which is me being used as a resource, but not really being cared for, because fuck Zam, she's always okay. She always has this figured out. She's not weighing 300 pounds and having, like, I don't know, seizures and stuff. So let's keep using it. Let's keep using it. It's kind of like postponing an oil change. Well, the car is still running. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Until it fucking stops running. People want to fix their car once it stops running. How about if you avoid it from burning out in the first place? That's what I'm saying. Protect me. Take care of me. If I'm as valuable to your life as you try to convince me I am, you're going to fucking take care of me and make sure that I don't burn the fuck out. And that's why at work, I be having stories of me being salty because I'm like, okay, I get it. You have people who you don't necessarily find reliable, but now you're taking your reliable person and you're exploiting her. You should be protecting her. No! No, I'm not going to pick up that extra shift and shit like that. My days picking up extra shifts are over. See what I mean? But now, management sometimes be like, but you know that we need you to train this person so that the team can be blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what about me? Like, do you not care? This has consequences on me. My time outside of here, I cannot make work my priority, especially if I'm a part-timer with no fucking benefits. See what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like, remember, me, life equals simple. Mind equals complex. Therefore, I just need to balance it out. And the way I need to balance it out is by living a simple life and leaving the other things that aren't good for me out. See what I mean? So again, you guys, I know I'm saying it like this with a lot of passion and whatnot. This isn't easy for me. Saying things like this isn't easy because the people I have in mind as I say these things are people I love. They're people who mean a lot to me. And I know that some of them who I have not gotten to share some of the things I have shared here with, they would be hurt. I know I would be hurt. But sometimes things need to come out violently because during times when there isn't tempest, you're not thinking about protecting your domain, protecting your home. So now the difference between me and me from the past is me from the past would have never considered saying these things, even though I wanted to share them really bad. But it's not ladylike, it's not proper, or that's not your business to be over. Like, basically, there was a mute button put over me, even though I was quiet. But when I would try to talk about the things that I like to talk about, which are literally all of the topics on the channel, are topics that are my interest. My topics tend to be psychology or sciencey stuff. People don't seem to like to think critically. You like to gossip and hang out on the surface and talk about this show I watched is really funny, blah blah. But what about the show makes it funny to you? What does it remind you of? Those are my kinds of questions. But people just be like, the voice actor sounds cool, or the colors are really bright, something like that. And I'm like, oh, what kind of technique do you think the artist needed to achieve that color scheme? How long do you think it took for these people to edit this scene or shoot this scene? And I like to think about shit critically, but the folks who were around me don't appreciate that because it stresses them out. To me, what stresses you out when it comes to thinking about things deeply, that's where I thrive. I mean, it just makes me woo, ah, all that excitement, but not being able to intellectually feed myself, that shit depresses me. And I'm not saying that the people who surround me are dumbasses. It's just that these are people who are overworked, over fatigued. I have taken care of my mind and my body to where I don't feel overworked and over fatigued. I have a lot of life to me, as you can see. But then when I see these people is during a time in their day when they're not in optimal condition because they gave their optimal condition to somebody else. So what I'm getting is imagine a gallon of juice, your favorite drink. Let's just call it juice. In the morning, it's at the top, totally at the top. But in the evening, which would represent the time that I get around to it, there's only like a shot left. If I'm lucky, maybe it's just like the residue that's at the very bottom, and you have to tilt the jug and leave it upside down for it to like continue dripping toward the lid, and then from the lid you can vacuum it. You know, that's what I feel with a lot of the people in my life. It's like, why do you leave me for the end of your day, and then I'm expected to be happy with you being, present at the end of my day when you're wiped out, you're not listening to what I'm saying, you're not staying awake, and you're in a bad mood. Like, unfortunately, my mom, like, she was just super stressed. And the sad thing about my mom sometimes is she tried, and I respect her, to be independent, because trying to have a life with somebody didn't work out for her. And then she just wanted to develop self-reliance. But unfortunately, in her quest at being self-reliant, she put up a lot of walls, and that tired her out and broke her down. And I was caught in that crossfire, if that makes sense. What I just described about I see you at the shittiest time of your day, that was me with my mom. Like, okay, in the daytime, you're teaching a ton of kids, disciplining them, talking to their parents, coming up with a plan to improve their performance, blah, blah, blah. But me, your priority was, do not bring a bad grade to this house. And on top of that, the way that she would try to teach me something would be very rigid. It wasn't kind and loving words like I got to witness her teaching her lessons to these other fuckers' kids. Why would you not give the most love to your own child? That is the way that I grew up interpreting things. But when I converse about these things with her, she goes, you have to understand that was my job. It doesn't mean deep down that I feel that those kids are better than you or that I love them more than you. And I'm like, this is the problem, Ma, that you don't use words to say things like, I love you, Zam, because in our family, saying that you love somebody was never a thing. So as a child, I grew up feeling like nobody fucking loved me, especially with the way that I was treated. And if you say things like, I show my love through action, reinforce it with words. Because sometimes it's not obvious to make the connection that your gesture is a gesture of love during your developing years. I can see that now as a fucking adult, but as a kid, I grew up not associating those gestures as loving gestures. That is the difference. Why? Because I was being emotionally neglected. And I was witnessing you having this conduct toward other people. So, people like that, I see it as you are perfectly capable of being loving and kind. But you just choose to give me the worst of you because it's the end of the day and you're stressed and wiped out. No! I'm saying I want to get that at all times because I deserve it. I want to get it first thing in the morning, maybe in the rush to school during traffic, or, at the end of the day, especially as soon as you see me. But I went years in which I never heard someone tell me good morning, especially at home. It was always something like, so what do you have going on today? Like, huh? What? Because I need you to blah, 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 blah. Like, greet me first? Hello? So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel like I was bred to be useful, like a personal assistant or something. And this is not just exclusive to my mom. Like, I don't want to make it seem like only my mom made me feel this way. That's the problem with being someone who is productive and talented and just gifted in those ways. Being gifted can be a curse because people are going to love you for what you do for them, and then once they lose you, they'll realize that there was much more to you than just that. And that is a realization that usually comes when it's late. Sometimes disease has to be in the way, or an injury or anything, something extreme has to happen. Like I've said before in one of my videos, how did aviation become safer? When there was a body count. Why are we like that? Why do we have to wait for the worst shit to happen before we take action as opposed to preventive care, you know? So anyways, okay, I promise I will catch up with the comments now. But I'm telling you guys, I went years not expressing myself like this. These are not new conclusions I have arrived at like recently. These are things that over the years I have collected these thoughts, and I guess in recent times I have polished them to where I can share them now. That's what this is. But yeah, I've been meaning to talk like this since I was like 14, 15. That's why I'm salty. This has been happening to me for a long time. Okay, let's see. Where am I at? So hopefully what I just described and rambled about helps you see where my stress comes from. That was the goal. Sheesh, sounds like that entire side of the family focus more on success and not family. Exactly. Because unfortunately, that side of the family, which is strange because my great grandparents were not like that. They were extremely humble people. Something happened to where it became a race of prestige and status. And I don't think I have gotten to make a video about this yet, but a topic that I have always had in mind is to discuss the consequences of competitiveness. Competitiveness is good for innovative purposes. But when it comes to cultivating relationships and stuff, look at successful business people, quote unquote, successful. Like, what did it cost them? Their family time, they had affairs, or they had broken families. Something always happened to them. There is a cost. But I feel like people want to be celebrated for their sacrifices, which is, oh, well, I created this business and it did this and that. Celebrate me. And this is how I look at it. And I know I've said this before on the channel. If you're going to be a fuck up in your personal life, with your family, with your children, with your spouse, at least be good in your career. You have to be good at something. So the way I see it is, if I wasn't, let's say that I'm back to my days being in school, but instead of being in school, let's say that I'm a manager, some kind of manager, like top manager. If I'm going to be a terrible girlfriend slash wife, if I'm going to be bad at home management, if I'm going to be a terrible driver, and things like that, at least let me be good at my fucking job. But, and I mean no disrespect to the people who do these things, like be a manager and have your home and your kids and your spouse. If you're not doing so well as a manager, and you're not doing well in your relationship, and you're not doing well with your kids, and you're not doing well with your finances, isn't that a red flag for you? Does that not worry you? So me personally, I'm definitely not a manager. I'm not educated. I don't have money, but I can say I'm not a criminal. I can say that my bills are paid, and I can say that I have meaningful relationships to where I had to humble myself and accept that I could use the help and allow for the help to arrive and embrace it, as opposed to being like, nah, I'll figure this out, I'll make it work, blah blah blah. That's usually my saying. I can be on my last bone and I'll be like, nah, I don't need help. I don't need, even though it's not a necessity for me to suffer, but I got so used to making it, like getting by with so little to nothing, that I normalized that shit. And that's the dangerous part, because I have normalized that now to the point that I'm like, well, if I'm able to make it work, then that's just fine. It's hard for me to envision a circumstance better than what I have now. And that's fucking sad. And I'm aware of it, but I don't always know how to. How do I say this? I don't always know how to welcome that progress, if that makes sense. I just look at it as my mom was my role model, which is be absolutely independent. And while I mention my mom being independent, sure, back in the day, I admire her because she made things work for us. But now in the present, she has so many challenges going on, and some of them are health related. That I'm like, Ma, you gave too much of yourself to your past, and now in your present, you need too much help now. Where is this coming from? I'm used to the person who's like the leader and you're aggressive with things and you take charge of everything. But now it's like you're just helpless. Like, what? What happened? You know, I got this attitude from somewhere, from someone. That someone was you. So what's happening that you're not self confident anymore? And that's one of those things that makes me say that it's impractical for you to be the manager of a home with children by yourself. Because, like I just shared, there were shortcomings. But anytime I would try to express those, say to a guidance counselor, and if it was a woman, oh, forget it. The conversation is not happening because instantly they would say things like, well, you're fed and you're this and that. Oh, I don't see any signs of abuse or neglect. And I'm like, why does nobody get it? I'm lonely, I'm sad, this and that. But because I'm fed and have clothes and have a roof over my head and video games, somehow I'm living a dream life. I'm not dismissing the fact that that cost someone something, that that was the result of my mom's sacrifice. But look at it as the present day iPad kids. Why do kids get iPads these days? Because it's easy to hand a device that is distracting to a child so that the parent can. That's like the pacifier of 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24. That's like the new pacifier. But that's not doing the raising. All that's doing is like putting a band aid solution on a wound that's just gonna gush out, with a ton of blood. And that's what I'm saying. For me, a lot of band aid solutions were put in place. And I didn't know that at the time. And now I'm at a point in which I'm describing that's what happened to me. And some people are just incredulous because I was that great student. I'm an excellent worker. My bills are paid. Therefore, I cannot be suffering. Like, is it really hard to understand any of this? Do you guys hear me? Does it make sense? Am I a genius? Is everybody just stupid? Or are y'all the geniuses? And I'm the stupid one. So that's how it feels. I don't have difficulty speaking. I have difficulty finding the proper audience. And my confidence to speak, I pretty much had to create it. And I think one of the first seeds that I planted was talking to my teachers. And I met some great ones and some that are questionable looking back. But after that, I started speaking at work. It didn't work most of the time for me. But now at work, I'm experiencing a generation of mentors that I can say are good influences. And that's when you guys began to point out here on the very channel that my demeanor was changing, that I sounded happier, that I was more confident, and that I didn't sound like I was holding anything back. And it aligned with the time in which I said, wow, I have great influences now. That's no accident. So here on the channel, I was planting seeds that I had no idea uh, that was happening. It's like, okay, I'm just doing this as a hobby. I'm talking because I like to journal. I like to share thoughts. I like to think, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that you guys pointed that out, it served as reinforcement that that shit is not in my brain. I'm not imagining that. I have good influences now and it's showing. Whereas in the past, I identified persons who were not compatible with my personality, and not only that, but they were not qualified to deal with my challenges. There's nothing wrong with that. I cannot expect for, say, my managers from 10 years ago to know how to deal with someone like me. But it's sad because I would expect that if you're in such a position that you would know how to manage people, no matter what their issues are or what their strengths are or weaknesses. You just know what to do with the members in your team. But I was noticing that some of these people were just not professional. And what I mean by that is someone may hold a position for a long time, but if you do that, are you still growing? Because sometimes you may get too comfortable with the position you have held for so long that you don't, when you're at the pinnacle, it's like, oh, I got nowhere else to look. There's no longer a way to look up because you're right there at the summit. You need to have something to keep pushing you and challenging you. And that's what I try to do with myself. It's like, okay, today I had a meltdown and this is why. Why did it happen? And how will I avoid it from happening again? Let's say a month from now. Oh, this time I had a half meltdown. I'm still struggling with the same bullshit from last month, except that I was able to overcome one part of it, but not the other part. Okay, what's my opportunity? What can I do different this time? Blah, blah, blah. That's the ZAM way of thinking. But other folks, it's like, no, this didn't go well. You're not going to prove to me that it's not working. We're going to make it work whether it works or not. What? What? No! Listen to yourself. So that's what it felt like for me. It has felt like an uphill battle. But the good thing about me is that I am resilient and full of pride. Lol, Girl Scouts are everywhere. They send them little ones on missions. Yes, exactly. I was an absolute failure as a Girl Scout. All I did was sell cookies, and there was this particular goddamn cookie that nobody ever bought. Did it have mint? I forget what it was. I know that the lemon ones usually sold well, and the ones with, it looked like a donut with a drizzle, that one usually sold pretty well. But there was this goddamn box of cookies that I could never get rid of. Dudes in general have a real hard time with self-expression despite how much a people person they may seem. Oh my god! Yes! I have known the clown who can absolutely entertain everybody. But when it's time to talk about deep things or things about their character, it's like they take 10 minutes, a day, a week, a month, 4 years to get their mind together. No! I don't have time for that. Like, I promise you guys that I'm not trying to make myself sound amazing or anything, but I promise you, put me to the test. If you say something, I will always be ready to answer it, especially something about emotions or psychology or something like that, something difficult. I don't fumble with my words, and I do have a stuttering problem, but like there's some people who like I'm like, I just want to grab your shoulders and shake you to get it out of you. The vision, the picture that comes to your mind, put it into words. Why is that hard for you? Right across from me, there is a tree. The sky is dark. There is some grass. The soil is moist. There is dew on the leaves of the trees. How can you not say that? But some people take forever to be like, I'm sitting here by the, there's that shit drives me bonkers. I walk out of those stupid ass, dumb ass, time wasting conversations. If you don't have your mind together, I don't want to talk to you, period. But, you know, like, I get mad like that because you guys, this is what I'm trying to tie together. when I was a kid, it was expected of me to perform well, speak in complete sentences, express yourself in a very short amount of time, and be concise, all those things. So now I'm grown, I'm this adult, very intense, with an intense academic background, and I apply it into my real life. But the clowns out here in my real life are not doing that. I don't fit in. That freaks me out. Because what's happening is I'm starved. Like intellectually and emotionally, I'm starved. And that's why there are some topics that I bring to the channel that I admit I'm a complete dumbass at. And I'm like, well, just remember, Zam, you're not meant to be good at everything. In your school days, you were meant to be good at math, elementary school level, and science and art and music and blah, blah, blah. Because the bar was low of what was deemed good performance. But as an adult, you gotta be giving your max at all times. Nobody as a kid instructed you that you will have days and times in which you will not be able to give your max. I don't have a problem with that. I only have a problem with that when that is your default personality. Like if I met you 10 years ago and you always said, I'm tired and this and that and the other, and you kept complaining about things, but 10 years on, you're still struggling with the same shit, you need to take action. What have you done to take action? What are your options to take action? That's where I get frustrated. And sometimes I feel like that thing that people say nowadays of your vibe attracts your tribe. I don't have a tribe. I'm my own tribe. I am the hype. But the reason I say it like that is because, again, I can go without any sleep, but I'm still as lit as usual. And I may not project that on my videos because in my videos I'm telling a story. But I promise you guys that if you were to hang out with me in person, I have too much energy. Too much energy. And I don't even mean to have that much energy. It just comes out. Coming from a dude. And yes, you dudes, I definitely am grateful for those of you who I have met here and over the course of the years. You guys have stuck around because I have learned a lot of stuff. Even if I haven't gotten to acknowledge a comment or something, when I do read something and I try it and it's like, oh shit, you were actually right. Sometimes I try to reply in a video instead. Like one of you guys was telling me in the comments that da 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 da. And it's like, this is awesome because the way that some of you guys, how do I say this, contribute, it does have the potential of influencing me. But I like for the influence to be a productive one. And that's why I tend to be selective about which topics I decide to share here. Because my attitude problems are the ones that to me are the most urgent. And some of you guys have taught me how to be confident on certain things. I don't think I saw it on my personal channel actually, but I saw it on a channel that had a topic similar to a topic I had made and I just happened to click on it. I'll never forget this person who put on that other person's channel's comment section. It was something about traffic. Basically, when the light is yellow, sometimes you might make the mistake of you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep going, but the light turns red and then suddenly you need to stop because that light that was yellow was really short, and it confuses you and you may end up stopping in the middle of the intersection, or your nose is over the white line or past the white line on the road, whatever. What this person's comment said was that his mom told him that the way to be safe when something like that happens is either commit to stopping as soon as you see the light turn yellow or commit to running it. Because when you were acting like you were going to continue, but suddenly you stop, that's an interruption of your flow. The flow you had would have ensured that at least all lights would continue to be red while you're under the intersection. But that insecurity that you have of not committing to the act, if you're gonna fuck up, go ahead and complete the fuck up. Don't leave the fuck up halfway done. See what I mean? So with me, after I read that, I started putting it to the test because when I was a new driver, that is something I had trouble with sometimes. And Ma would get spitting angry at me. She would be like, why the fuck didn't you stop? Or why the fuck didn't you keep going? But she was trying to pretty much teach me what this guy left in the comments that his mom said. But the difference is that this guy's mom said it in a productive way, in a way that was more compatible for me to grasp. She simply said, commit to running the red light with the momentum that you have, or commit to stopping. Or rather, I shouldn't say run the red light, but more like cross it when it's yellow. That's what it is. Because if you have at least crossed the white line while it's still yellow, you will make it through. But sometimes the light changes right after you have pretty much crossed that white line, but you're still at the intersection, especially at 35 miles per hour. So commit to stopping. You have time to stop as soon as you see the yellow light, or commit to the flow. Keep going. So my mom, all she would do was criticize me about how I got it wrong, how I stopped in the middle of the intersection and now I have to practically run the red light because I'm stopped in the middle of the intersection. But had she told me, Zam, when you see yellow, either commit to stopping or commit to continuing to go. I always looked at it as I will get in trouble if I cross the light on yellow and it turns red as I'm under it. That was my entire trauma. But that's an example of something that my mom, when I told her that I learned that from the comments, she said, that's literally what I was telling you. And I'm like, because I am so emotionally stressed by that memory that I know that's not the way you showed it to me. Because had you showed it to me like that, I would have developed that all them years ago, and I would be a confident driver in that regard since forever. But now, I saw this comment about 3 years ago. Only 3 years ago did I finally define how I'll perform that maneuver. See what I mean? So it's one of those things that this person, my mom, I definitely need to credit her with teaching me how to drive, but there are certain extra details that I have picked up from other people whose style of advising and teaching, whether directed at me or indirectly I picked it up, such as in this case, which was from stumbling upon that comment. It's useful. Don't worry about the fact that it wasn't you who taught it to me like that and I'm crediting you. Just be like, you know what, honey? I'm glad that you learned it. You struggled like a little bitch with that. You probably would have gotten yourself killed. I'm glad that you finally got it. It's like math. I'm never going to be able to learn math from my mom because she sucks at it. So if I'm able to learn math from somebody else, don't be mad that I'm learning math from somebody else. Just be like, honey, that's great. I'm glad that you found somebody who can help you. But no, instead, you're going to be like, well, that's what I was trying to tell you. And like, no, chill out. If you're not going to be excited about hearing about my triumphs, just tell me, Zam, I don't give a fuck about your success. And I won't tell you my story. But you know what it's like that you're excited and all lit up and, oh my God, let me tell you about something that I learned. And then the person just shoots it down. That shit hurts. It sucks. Like, I feel like I'm so full of life and I get excited and then I can feel my own eyes dilating and sparkly and all that. Me telling you about, oh, I want to show you this new cookie that I discovered. And then you're like, you need to eat salad. Bitch! Do you have a soul? And again, that's not exclusive to my mom. This is something, I have many, many, many different people and faces as I say this. But there are some that I can say, oh yeah, my mom when I was a kid did me like that, and I'm pretty sure that some of you guys had parents like that. Why is it that parents treat you like crap? Because you cannot divorce your child. I feel like we're taken for granted. Like, taken for granted. Like, okay, you're my kid, you cannot divorce me. No matter what, I'm going to be your mom, I'm going to be your dad. But wouldn't that want to motivate you to have the best relationship with us? I don't know. Maybe I'm just someone who likes to commit and be passionate and dedicate to a very small number of people. But I just like to give my best to the people I legit say I love. I'm never going to be like, you're never going to stop being my best friend. Therefore, I'm going to take you for granted and not give you any maintenance. Like, no, to me, the people who are close to me, those are people I give high maintenance to. Everybody else who doesn't matter or fit into my personal circle, I give y'all low maintenance. And I'm sorry, don't be offended, but I like to be available with my very best for those folks who have the privilege of inhabiting such a position in my life. It's just the only way I can make it happen. And Holger says, have a pink drink on me and gives me a 20. Thank you so much. It's funny you say the pink drink because I had one yesterday and today. And oh my God, I really need to do something about my diet. But I had a salad. I had a salad and I had chicken, fucking loaded in garlic sauce, but whatever. And of course, I had my pink drink. I need to have water. But I promise you that I'm doing better about eating veggies throughout the week. Still not good, not 2017 level good when I was on top of my game, but trust me, I'm working on it. And yesterday I had a protein shake, which I felt great. I felt like I could wear this car as my hat. I mean, I had power and I had strength until the thing I haven't told you guys about happened. And then I had to leave the gym, and then my potential gains didn't happen. But it is what it is. But I was excited. I'm like, wow, I I got nutrients up in my body. I got collagen, I got protein, I got magnesium, I got potassium, I got all these things. But today it's like I got my salad, haven't had a lot of water. I had an ungodly amount of sugar, but hey, I'm not meant to be good at everything. Pedro says, great points. Hey there, K38. Hey there. I would be very lucky to hang out with you for an hour. Oh, bruh, I'm sure you of all people, I'm sure you would make that time count. And trust me, I would make it count too, because you know me, I like to ask crazy questions. And what I like about asking crazy questions is that I like that I can always sense that you have experience with something, and I'll ask you something and then you give me like a better response than I bargained for. And I'm like, food for me brain. Just like they sell something called skin food. It's this crazy thick lotion. It's like, what is it? Medular food. Yeah, a lot of people are no longer grounded. Exactly. Which ruins a ton of potential friendships and relationships. You're better than me. I don't even fully remember my own license plate. OMG. Look, when it comes to memory, I have a degree of being, I was better at it as a kid and as a teen, but I have a degree of visual memory. And the way that I say visual memory is not, I don't say photographic for a reason because it's not that detailed. But the way I remember shit is I remember it in the form of an impression. Like, let's say that I sight read the license plate that's right in front of me. It's as if I don't see the letters and numbers individually. I see their silhouette and somehow I'm able to accurately recreate it. Does that make sense? To describe it a different way, another way my memory manifests is in the form of kinesthetics. I'm a cashier. I know the codes of almost everything. The only things I don't know is maybe the items that we have once a year, or sometimes is once every couple of years. So I don't get to practice it. But sometimes I may remember a very old code, and I remember it based on muscle memory. That's the impression. It's like, oh, I kind of remember feeling my hand performing this kind of motion, and boom, I remember it. My favorite example to give would be something like dragon fruit. That's not something that's available everywhere, but off the top of my head right now, I'm not sure how I would tell you the code, but if I go by my finger movement memory, I think the code is 3040. I don't remember the number 3040. I remember the motion of my hand typing 3040. See what I mean? Banana to me, it's really easy because um it's like 4011, right? But something about 4011 I associate it with the shape of a banana. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm so used to seeing 4011 over it, but it just, maybe it's because it has two wands in it. And you know that when you peel a banana and you look at it from a certain angle, it may look like there's two sticks. Like the peel has like a vertical look to it, and those look like a one. That's the impression that I'm trying to describe. I know it doesn't make sense. It's hard to put into words. I've never tried to really explain this. But as a kinesthetic learner, I don't write it by hand. But because I have the keyboard, that's what I remember. I just look at something, and sometimes if I don't remember a code, I will remember it as soon as I touch it. Like if I feel something like a grapefruit, it's like when I see the grapefruit coming down the belt, I don't know the number, but something about touching it and bringing my hand to the keyboard, that's the shit that reminds me. And I know my credit card number, I know my bank account number, I know my driver license number. I just know numbers when it comes to sequences. And if I'm handwriting it, guaranteed I'm gonna remember that shit. But unfortunately, when it comes to solving things with numbers, I just can't. Like, solving for, I don't know, X, I would probably need a little refresher. Logarithms, I don't remember shit. I know that they're supposed to be like the opposite of an exponent, but how? Just how? And another thing is determining the better buy. When I'm at a supermarket, I guess it's because I've done this for so long, but you know how they offer you different sizes for the same goddamn thing? Sometimes buying the bigger one is not as good as buying two small ones. That's called determining the better buy. I feel like I do pretty well with that, but sometimes I don't do so well with it. And it's because I'm like, ooh, a deal. Nah, I should go for practicality because I shouldn't buy this thing that I know I don't eat often, get the bigger version of it just because the bigger is better. Sometimes you have to buy the smaller one so it doesn't go bad on you, and that way you didn't waste on the bigger size. That's something I had to train myself with. So yeah, better may not always mean better for you. That's something I learned. Baki is literally my favorite manga. You know, unfortunately, I don't read the mangas. Um, I don't read comics either, but I my favorite thing about Baki had to be that episode where what was the name that they gave Obama? Was it uh damn it, I forgot. But anyway, whoever was doing the voice of Obama had me rolling. Oh damn. Like that's the one line that really stood out to me. But yeah, I love Baki. I need to catch up with the season that came before the pickle season. But yeah, I just absolutely loved seeing him relax himself into liquid. That shit was hilarious. No one ever checks up on the people that perceive they perceive as strong, which sucks since those strong people are usually suffering in silence. Yes, thank you for getting it, you human being. Do you think these cognitive issues may cause some driving problems someday, or does it just happen in very specific situations? Um, Cognitive issues, I can say that I pretty much control, and I let it out when I'm in a safe setting. And let me give you an example. Last week, did I tell you guys that I had a meltdown and I had to leave work? I feel like I did. Yeah, that was my morning vlog. Um, I remember that I was bawling my eyes out as I was driving, but I do not lose awareness of what I'm doing. Like, sure, the tears may be rolling down my eyes, but I can still focus and look, take care of my blind spot. Look, take care of my blind spot. My performance is not hindered just because of my emotional state. It makes it difficult for me to function in the sense of, say, let's say that I'm your cashier. I may not be as chatty or looking as enthusiastic and stuff, but I'm still going to charge you accurately. I'm still going to give you your cash back accurately. See what I mean? So if I feel like I'm having a meltdown bad enough to where I cannot drive, you better believe I'm going to wait and calm myself down. But I am very confident about being my best judge and being like, realistically speaking, I'm not in the condition to do this and that. See what I mean? But that is a valid concern because I have thought about it. And one of the things I said to myself when I started driving is, well, not that I was a drinker to begin with, but now I officially must never have a drink because I want to be able to, in case of emergency, if it's midnight, I gotta be able to drive and be somewhere if there's an emergency. But I don't want to be in a situation in which I have to question whether I'm fit for something. I'm making sure that I'm always fit for something. And I guess to give you another example of how cautious I like to be, I understand that my vision is my greatest weakness. If something happens to my glasses, I'm screwed because I don't have a backup pair. But I do have sunglasses that have my prescription on it. So at the very least, that will help sustain me until I can resolve the problem with my glasses. See what I mean? So now it's like, oh, having backup glasses along with sunglasses makes me even safer. So that's what I'm saying. I like to make decisions in which I have multiple lines of defense before I can declare myself as absolutely defeated by something. Um, but when it comes to driving, I've always told myself if for some reason I feel like I'm spacing out or like I just cannot trust myself or I'm having too many near misses or anything like that, I'm taking myself out off the road no matter what. But nah, I promise you, like these things are easy for me to mute. And that's why I keep telling you guys that I like to deliberately have a linear mind. It doesn't mean that I cannot have my attention on other things. It's if I'm sitting in this driver's seat with the engine running, I am driving. Nothing else matters when I'm driving. Nothing. And that's why the occasional vlog that you may see me in which I may be in my car and my car is moving, am I looking at the phone? Sometimes I thought I was recording and I fucking wasn't recording because my phone either moved or shifted, or I thought I was recording but it wasn't, but I didn't catch it because I'm not looking at it. It's not distracting me. And what I do is the shape of my steering wheel, the gap in it is wide enough to where I can fit my phone there and my phone can stay. And that's why it doesn't really distract me. And I'm not actually holding it. The only time I may be holding it is when I grab it for a second to let it drop onto my lap and I steer. And then if I come to a stop or a stop sign or a stoplight, that's when I can whoop, stick it back in there. But I'm never going to perform a maneuver that I know I cannot do safely. See what I mean? But that is something that I had to first practice in a safe manner, such as the car's not moving, before doing something like that. So if I had a cognitive challenge, I would be like, yeah, no, this is totally not doable. And that's why I do not put effort into my production. It's like whatever angle I show you, this is the only way I can make it work for me. You take it or you leave it. But I'm not going to exchange that for a thrill. Does that make sense? And that's why other times I'm like, I just gotta be honest. I gotta start a piece of it right here, another piece at another time. And sometimes what I'll do is if I have something to say that I absolutely just gotta say, sure, I'll set the phone to record, put it on my seat. It'll be facing the seat or facing the ceiling, something. I'll record what I said, replay it, and then re-record myself saying the thought that I said while I was recording, you know. But I try to come up with solutions like that. And that's why I'm like, okay, there are some things that I know for a fact I cannot do when I'm having a meltdown or a bad emotional time. But driving, I think it's because I have practiced it so much and my focus is indestructible that I'm confident about it. And right now, it's dark. I don't like to drive when it's dark, but my place is literally 1 block away. If I cannot make it home safely 1 block away, then fuck me, you know? I have to suffer the consequence. But that is a very good question because I have wondered about that. And another thing that I can say is that I can continue to work. And unfortunately, I know people in my team who cannot say the same. Some of them cannot even show up to the shift because of anxiety issues and stuff. And I'm like, sweetie, if I allowed myself to be defeated by anxiety, I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't have this job. My bills wouldn't get paid. I would be sleeping on the streets. No offense. And I'm not trying to make someone feel bad or weak or make myself look superior, but I'm just saying that emotionally, I come from a lot of suffering since I was a teenager. But it never stopped me from making good grades, didn't stop me from getting a job. And why would I want to not continue to function? At least what I'm trying to do now is overcome those things. But I don't mind that the challenge exists. What I do mind is how I respond to it. If it were up to me, you guys, I'm not gonna lie. I would love to have the lifestyle in which I don't have to show up to any damn place. You know, just wake up and stay at home and just chill and somehow just make money like that. And at the same time, I tell myself, would I really like that though? Because I do like feeling like I'm useful somewhere. I do like to have somewhere to show up to. And work is dynamic, even though my position has been the same. I cannot say that 2 shifts have been the same. There is always a little something that makes a shift different. It could be a coworker, it could be a new visitor, it could be the weather, anything. Anything can happen. And hello, King Garuda. I helped a single mom with food and money with 7 kids, a homeless person, and feed 2 ducks today. I might be an introvert, but helping people is my passion. That is awesome. I know exactly what you mean. I've had moments like that in which I just randomly help people with something, especially older people. And one of my favorite things to do for older people is, especially if they have a cane, hold the door for them. You have no idea. Well, you guys, I think this is a good stopping place. I should consider going home. I was supposed to get on the treadmill, but nah, I think I need to rest physically. I think it was a good thing that this turned out the way it turned out. And yeah, I will be around. I will continue to stream as often as possible. And hopefully I can do it in different times so that all of you guys have an opportunity to stop by. Because I know some of you guys have different times, and yeah, it sucks that I cannot promise you a schedule, but hey, I'm here. We made it here. And yep, so all I want is to stay chill, rest, drink water, and just make it work. I just feel like in this society that's so connected now, not only is there a lot of deception going on, but I feel like there's pressure coming from every direction and it's confusing people. Learn to identify who and what you are at your core. If you have never been an overconsumer, don't try to pretend to begin to be an overconsumer. Continue doing your thing. If you have never been someone who obsessed over appearance, don't start now. The only thing you should concern yourself with is if there's something that you need to change to make your life better, such as, I don't know, exercising and eating better. Do that. Allow yourself to be influenced in that regard. But when it comes to things like, look at my ride, and look at my devices, and material things, or pursuing a certain status, please don't allow yourself to feel inferior by that. Or look at me going on dates every single weekend or something like that. Seriously, do not allow that to define you. If that's not how you were and someone gave you this idea or you ran into it by accident on that internet, please don't let that shit mess with you. And the reason I say that is because I'll be seeing some video titles that I curiously click on, and I see the shows that people put online, and all those acts, and sometimes I'll see like the things that people be getting arrested for, and I'm like, people really have become that stupid? Just don't do that. Do not make yourself easily influenced. And I can say that as a teen I was impossible to influence, and now as an adult I am triple impossible to influence, because you are able to smell bullshit like as soon as you smell it, you just know. So don't allow yourself to be deceived. You're doing great. Stay healthy, and don't be like me. I wasted a lot of time and I stressed myself out so much thinking that I wasn't doing well or that I wasn't doing enough. But if you're getting by, sure, you can aspire to better things, but do not let it consume you, and don't take life too seriously. I wish I would have learned this shit 10 years ago. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.